التعليق عندي مقفل، ما اقدر اني اسوي اي تعليق. بوست ريستريكتد.
بوست ريستريكتد. من اسمك؟
احمد لؤي.
لا عادي. It does not show that there is a restriction. Okay.
انا يعني مثلا انت سالت انه ما طالب، ما اقدر اكتب لك ارد على سؤالك.
Now for me here it does not show anything regarding what you call stopping you from writing. The only thing is muting. Whatever I
Okay.
can do is muting. So try to go out and then return back.
اوكي مساء.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are going to continue lecture number 3, which is going to be about continuation of whatever we have talked about, the fundamentals of project management. And if you remember, we have talked about project attributes. What are the attributes? What are the characteristics of the project? And we talked about being temporary, having a progressive elaboration, require resources, and other things. We talked as well about project constraints, if you remember, and we said we have different constraints. These are the limits that we should not exceed in order to say that we have successfully managed our project. We talked about what is the definition of a project. We talked about what's the definition of a project, and if you remember, we said it's a temporary series of tasks we are doing to create a unique output. Furthermore, we have talked about the difference between project, program, portfolio, and we said when we have related projects, we call them to be a project, and whenever we talk about projects and programs, we call it to be portfolio. So projects, when they are grouped together, we call them as a program. Whenever we have programs and projects together, we call them as portfolio. And then we talked about the knowledge areas. Different knowledge areas were there. And we said these are the areas that the person who is practicing project management should know about. And we talked about scope management, schedule management, cost, quality, resources, communication, risk, procurement, stakeholder integration. And we have given different examples for each and every knowledge area. Whatever we are going to have today is to start how to define project management. So we define what's a project. We go and define what's project management, and then we go to projects. Okay, our project manager. Anyhow, now if you remember when we have talked about project, we talked about different things. Okay, we talked about it's a series of tasks that we need to do in order to create a unique output. Okay, but we have said as well we require resources, we require mechanisms in order to do this particular project. So the proper definition for project management is to say that we have knowledge areas. Okay, we have knowledge areas. So we should as people, we should know the basic knowledge which is related about project management. We should have the tools. So starting with the definition, say that we are applying whatever knowledge. So already I should know the basics of project management. I should have some skills, tools, and techniques which are representing the resources. Okay. 2 project activities. So we have different project activities. If you remember the tower problem, to meet the project requirement. So once again, what do we have? We have 3 things. Okay, we have 3 things. First, we need to have at least the knowledge. We need to have the tools. And then we start working with this knowledge, with these tools in the project activity. So we have taken the basic fundamentals of the knowledge areas, the resources that we have to create our tower, and we started making the tower. Making the tower refers to the project activities. And in order for me to say that I have properly done a project management, I need to make sure that I didn't exceed my limits, which is referring to meet the project requirements. So when we refer to project requirements, we refer to constraints as well. So just to keep it short, we are trying to apply whatever knowledge areas that we are having, whatever resources, to whatever tasks that we are doing in order to meet certain requirements of this particular project. Okay. Are we okay with this particular definition? Are we okay with the definition? Is it clear? Okay, so I think it's very simple. Okay, I think it's very simple. We need to have some fundamentals of the management. We need to have the resources, because without these two, we cannot do a project management. We need to have certain project applying whatever I have to the project activities in order for me to meet the project requirements. Okay. After that, we go to project managers. So we have different examples just to illustrate for you the definition of a project manager or a project manager. Okay, so we have a person who is doing art. Okay, the person who is doing art is called an artist. The person who is doing writing, we call it as a writer. The person who is doing project management is called to be a project manager. So if we try to go and try to define a project manager, we'll say that project manager is the person who is responsible about applying whatever knowledge areas, the resources to the project activities to meet the project requirement. Okay, so project manager is the person who is doing the project management. Are we okay? Are we clear with that? Are we fine? Okay. Now, when it comes to the project manager, we have different things to be taken into account. Okay, we have different things to be taken into account. We have skills he should have as a project manager, and then the challenges as well, what challenges he might be facing. Now, before going to talk about the skills and challenges, before talking about the challenges and skills, do you remember when we had the tower example, and we have said that you need to create a group of 4 to 5 members, and then you need to pick the leader? Okay, so the leader is now being the project manager. He is the person who is trying to manage the whole process of building the tower. Okay, so once again, I was being the client who has given you that task. I was a client who was giving you that task. The leader was the project manager who was looking over the whole thing and trying to make sure that this tower is going to be created. Okay. Now, what skills do you think when you are trying to choose this particular leader? What skills do you think that he needs to have? What do you think? In leadership? Other than leadership? Other than leadership? Okay. Communication, time management, able to communicate. Okay. Creator, good in teamwork. Okay. So I'll just try to give you certain questions, and then you answer me whether you feel that it's required or not. Okay. Does he require to be? Do you require him to be able to properly talk? Does he require to properly talk to the others? Or he should be shy and not be able to talk to the others? So he should be able to go and talk to the others, right? Because if you remember, we said he is the one to go and purchase the materials from the panel. If you remember the panel. Okay. Okay. So first is communication. Do you think that he is he should be, let's say, a leader? Do you think that he should be a leader or he should be a manager only? A leader or a manager only? Is there any difference between leader or manager? Leader, manager? Okay. Leader. Lead only. Okay. We'll talk further about the difference between leader and manager. Does he need to know how to control cost? Does he needs to know how to control the costs? Is it important? So once again, it's important for him to go and control the cost. Is it important for him to follow up the time? Is it important for him to follow up the time, that he keeps time? Yeah. So if you start talking about the skills required for this particular person, you will identify a lot of skills required. Okay. So we try to summarize these skills. We already try to answer most of the skills required. We'll try to summarize and see what are the skills normally required for the job of a project manager. The first thing, he needs to be a team builder. Okay. Now, when it comes to choosing the team members, would you prefer a person who is choosing any person, or would you prefer the person who will choose the suitable person for the suitable job? When I talk about team building, it means that he is choosing his members. Okay. So you will see that I require a person who will be putting the suitable person in the suitable position. Okay. So let us go and see the example. So we talk about team building. We have a construction project. Where the first project manager, he was planning to have a civil engineer, an architect, an MEP engineer, a foreman, a mason, a laborers. Yeah. While the other person was planning to have only civil engineers. Now, which one do you think that is going to be the correct one? Is it the first one or the second one? Okay. Which one do you think that is correct? The first one or the second one? Okay. So eventually, you will see that the person who will have a successful project is a person who will try to be diverse, a person who will not stick to only one position. Okay. For example, if I know that I have a project, for example, in the college, and in this project, I know that there will be a presentation at the end of the semester. Okay. So one example, I said there is a project in the college where this project I require as a group to go and present in front of the others. Do I need to have a good presenter, or it's not important? Do you think that it's important for me to have a good presenter, or it's not important? So you will go for a good presenter, of course. Why? Because you require a person who knows how to speak in terms of presentation. The same thing when it goes to the tower. Do you require a person who can sketch, who can think and imagine for the tower problem? Or you don't require any person who's good in sketching? For the tower that we have said about, do you require a person who is good in imagination and drawing? Or you don't require? So you will go with a person who is good in sketching because he will save you a lot of time, right? So what I'm trying to illustrate here, I'm trying to illustrate for you when it comes to the project manager, he should know how to build his team if possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but if it's possible for you, you need to pick and build your own team according to your requirements. Okay. So that is the first skill. Communication. We have two scenarios here once again. We have two scenarios. Scenario number one, I have a leader in my group who is shy, who is computer illiterate. Computer illiterate means he does not know how to use computers. And then he is messy, he is not organized. Okay. While the other group, they are having a person who is confident, a person who is linguist, he knows how to talk, he's having a good command on language, computer literate, he knows how to use computer. Now, which one do you think that will make their project successful? Is it the first one or the second one? Okay, so you will see the second one. And when we talk about communication, it's not only okay. Let her try. Maybe it's because of the connection. Maybe it's because of the connection, so I cannot judge now. Okay, it might be because of the connection, so I cannot do anything now. Any person who is having a connection problem or having an issue, try to go out and then try to enter once again. Okay, so what we try to do, what we try to illustrate for the communication, we try to say, or we try to show that it's important for the project manager to communicate with the others. If you didn't know how to communicate, your a good project is going to be listened. Okay. After that, we have leadership. And this is a good example of being a manager and being a leader. Yeah, being a manager and being a leader. Now, I'll give you a scenario. Do you prefer a boss? Okay, do you prefer your boss to be a person who is working with you, or do you prefer him a person who is only ordering you? Would you feel comfortable? Would you feel comfortable with a person who and he's not doing anything? Or a person who is working with you, you see him that he is a hard-working person and he is working always. Okay. So if you illustrate here, if you try to see the difference between a leader and a manager, normally a manager in regular jobs is a person who is going to order you to work. Okay. A manager is a person who is going to give orders already. Okay. Now, when it comes to a leader is a person who is going to be the first person to participate. So you can see here in this scenario, the manager is a person. Okay, a manager is a person who is trying now to ask his teams, our team members, to go and pull the rope. While the second scenario, the leader was the first one to build with him. Okay, a manager is a person who is going to give orders. A leader is a person who will always participate with you. Are we okay? So we keep saying not all managers are leaders, but all leaders are managers. Okay. So you come to a level of manager, and then above manager, there is a leader. Okay. Are we okay? After that, we are having planning. Okay. We have planning. Now, two scenarios, university number 1 and university number 2. And we are talking about online learning. For university number 1, they were trying to implement online learning from the time before Corona. I mean, they were trying to keep all the lectures online. They were trying to keep everything to be online. And there is another university who was not prepared, who was waiting for this pandemic to happen. And then at that time, they started to do, or they started to prepare for online. Okay. Although sometimes the situation and the resources will be controlling, but which one you will think that they will manage their project of online learning better? Is it the first one or the second one? Is it the person? Is it the entity or university who was planning ahead, or is it the entity who was planning after? Of course, if you keep your plan ready, you can face anything. But if your plan is not involving that this might be happening at a certain time, you will see that you will be coming, I mean, you will be having a situation like whatever we had with the summer semester. The university was not, or the college university was not ready to have the semester due to a lot of issues. While, for example, other universities or other colleges, they continued with their online teaching. Are we okay? So when it comes to planning, planning is very important because it will differentiate between a group who will be successful and a group who is not going to be successful. Are we fine? Budgeting. Okay. Budgeting. So what do we have here? We were planning. Budgeting means controlling the payments or controlling the cost. When we refer to budgeting, we refer to controlling the cost. So I have a UK trip. Okay, I have a UK trip, and I have estimated that the cost for this UK trip is going to be 1,500 Omani riyal. Okay. We have two scenarios. Scenario number one person said, okay, I'm going to take the 1,500. The second person, he said, out of the 1,500, I'm going to keep 500 for the tickets, 300 for the hotels, 200 for the food, 200 for the tours, 200 for the shopping. I'm going to keep another 100 for the emergency case. Which one you will think that he will not have an issue? Is it the person who has divided his work, who has divided the cost, or is the person who was general only? Okay, so the best person, of course, is going to be the person number 1. The same thing. See, for example, I'm going to purchase. I said, I'm going to purchase. It's number 1. It's number 1. Okay, it's number 1. I said I'm going to purchase certain items from the supermarket. Okay, so I need to purchase tomatoes, eggs, and whatever. Okay, so I was planning to purchase certain things from the supermarket. Do you need to keep an estimate of how much is going to cost you for each and every item, or you will go to the supermarket without knowing the approximate prices? Is it important to know the approximate prices, or you will go blindly? Now, one thing you need to keep in mind, if you know the approximate prices, you can estimate how much money is required for you. If you didn't do that budgeting from before, you will not know whether this money is sufficient or not. Are we fine? So for example, this person, he has booked his ticket for 500. This person didn't divide his expenses. So he has purchased a ticket of 700 instead of 500. Now there is a bigger chance for number two that he is not going to have sufficient money for him to finish his trip. Are we okay? So when it comes to budgeting, we are talking about dividing our costs into an approximate value to check whether we have sufficient amount or not. Are you okay? Is it clear?
Mister,
Yes.
I cannot write anything in the chat box.
Try to go out and
I did that twice.
try to once again.
Huh?
Try to do that once again.
Okay.
Writing, I don't believe that there is a way, or just wait, let me check. I don't know. Okay. Okay, so I believe there is no, there is no way to control the permission. There is no way to control the permission as the others are able to write. You shouldn't be having an
It's
issue.
written in sent message.
That is,
Mr. Me too, I cannot write.
yeah, this is what I said to you. I cannot control who is writing and who is not. Might be a problem of your internet because others are writing. Okay. There is only a function of muting you. I can only stop your voice, but I don't think that there is a way of stopping you from commenting. Are we fine? So if you are having a question, keep your mic on. If you are having a question, you can ask directly. Are we fine with that?
Yes.
Okay. So anybody who is not able to write can intermediately or stop me, and then you will start the what you call the questions. Are we okay with the budgeting? Are we fine with the budgeting now?
Yes, Mr.
Okay. Okay. So we said, do you remember that we have said about the Bob-up quiz? Do you remember the Bob-up quiz? Okay. So you have a Bob-up quiz at 10:45 in the e-learning. So go to the e-learning. At 10:45, your test is going to start. Okay. We are going to have 10 minutes break. 10:45 is going to be your test. It's going to be only one question, and you are going to have 5 minutes. Are we fine with that? Okay. Either you go to your e-learning, or you can go and access it from here. Okay, you can go and access it from here, from Moodle. Okay, you can go and access it from here, from Moodle. Okay, and then enter your username and password. Are you okay with that? So 10:45, your test will start, and then you'll have 5 minutes to answer. So one question for 5 marks. السلام ورحمة الله. الحمد لله. أعوذ بالله.
مستر السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
حياك مستر. ما حصلنا في الليل يعني. ها؟ دخلت عليه حصلنا ما نزل.
45
ويك. ها؟
45 بالضبط يفتح، سوي ريفرش ويفتح.
طيب.
ما يفتح. صار.
مستر ما فتح.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to write the question for you in the chat. Okay. There will be a post, and then you can answer it if it's not opening for you. Are we okay? Are we fine with that? Okay, so I'll just post a new conversation with the question. You need to write your correct letter. Okay? And the question. So you can reply directly to the question. Perhaps leave it, you can directly answer now. You have 5 minutes starting 10:49 and you need to finish okay. So okay, no problem. For those who have done it this time, for those who have done it in the e-learning, it's fine. Those who are not able to access the e-learning, answer it here. If you are able to answer in the e-learning, go to the e-learning. This is what I said. I said it's opening for everyone. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to increase the time. Okay. Hello. So try to answer in the e-learning. If it's not possible, just post your answer here for this question.
مستر في الاي ليرن ما موجود، وهنا نفس الشيء ما نقدر نجاوب لأنه في الشات ما يصلح نكتب شيء.
This is not in the chat. In the what you cannot write for the post here.
مستر لا في الشات ولا في الاي ليرن.
لا هنا you cannot see this post of portfolio. You cannot answer it.
ما يصلح مستر اكتب شيء.
Okay, this one. Try now. Is it possible?
طيب مستر ايوه بكتب الحين.
Okay, so first try it in the e-learning. If it's not there in the e-learning, you can answer this question. Some are saying it's okay in the e-learning. Some are saying. Huh? You add some restrictions in the e-learning? Yeah, it's only one question. One question only. It's for the purpose of attendance. Only one question. If I try to do it in the e-learning, if it's not possible, then it's fine with your answer. Are we fine? Everyone has answered? Okay. Okay, for today's lecture, we are going to keep this post open. Those who have, what you call, for those who are not able to answer in the e-learning, they can directly type here or reply to the question. For those who have not been added to the e-learning, just send the direct message for me and then I'll add you. Yes, one question for the purpose of attendance, and then finally these questions for the attendance will be having a value of 10 marks. Okay, so we are returning back to our lecture. Once again, those who are not able to access the e-learning are only permitted to do an answer here. For next class, everything should be in the e-learning. Okay. Are we okay? Are we okay with the budgeting? Are we okay with the budgeting? Are we okay with the budgeting? Okay. So after budgeting, we have motivation and influence. What's the difference between motivation and influencing? Any person? Motivation and influencing? Motivation is encouraging others, while influencing. Okay, to get effect. Okay, let us see the example and hopefully we can make it a bit clearer. Okay, so what do we have? We have two lecturers, and we were talking about the students' grades. Okay, we were talking about the students' grade. One person or one lecturer, the student has got a full mark. So he has written for him A plus, and then the other person has written for him A plus and then excellent. Now, which one would you think that is going to be more encouraging for the student? Is it going to be one or is it going to be two? A person who has said A plus or a person who has said A plus and excellent? The second person, right? Okay. So when we talk about motivation, we talk a person who is moving in the correct direction and you are trying to push him further to go in the same direction. Okay, motivation, a person who is doing something correct and you are trying to encourage him to do it further. Are we okay? Are we clear with the motivation? Now, when it comes to influence, this lecturer is keeping the good students in separate place and then the other average students in another place. Okay, while this particular lecturer, which is lecturer number 2, he is trying to involve making groups of good and average students together. Now, which one do you think that is going to be better? Or number 2, the person who separated the good from average, or the person who's tried to mix them so they can get benefited from each other? So if you see what lecturer number 2 has done, he tried to influence the average student to be good students. Okay, influencing means you are seeing a person who is not going in the correct direction according to your opinion, and then you are trying to divert him, you are trying to change him from that direction to another direction. Okay? Motivation, he is going in the correct direction according to your opinion, you are trying to ask him to move forward in the same direction. Influencing, you feel that he is in another direction and you need to try to influence him to change him from that particular direction to another direction. Are we okay? Okay. Now negotiation. What do we mean by negotiation? What do we mean by negotiation? What do we mean by negotiation? What do you think that we are referring to negotiation? Hello sir, how are you? Okay, so when we talk about negotiation, we deal about communication between two persons to try to come up with a certain middle point. Okay, to negotiate something means you are discussing with another partner and you are trying to get something from him. Are we fine? Do you remember when I told you the 20 minutes for the tower and I told you that you can get 5 minutes extra? Do you remember that? A good negotiator is a person who can get whatever he wants. Okay, that's why I told you the team can get extra 5 minutes if panel agrees. Panel will only agree if you are able to convince them, and you will only be able to convince them if you are a good negotiator. Are we okay? Are we fine? Okay, so I'll give you an example. I'll just give you an example. We have two persons here. There was a house for sale. It was for 200,000 Omani Riyal. The first person, he has offered 170 and it was rejected. And then he offered 175 and it was rejected. And then he offered 180 and the landlord has agreed. Okay, so scenario number one, the price for the house was announced price, advertised price was 200,000. So for me, I have offered 170. The owner rejected. 175, the owner rejected. 180, once again, the owner has accepted. Are we okay? The second scenario, for the second person, he has offered directly 200,000. Now, which one you think is good for your project? A person who can negotiate and reduce the expenses, or the person who is going to give whatever is required? Of course, it's going to be a person who is a good negotiator, right? A person who is a good negotiator. Okay. I think it's clear. Conflict management. What's the meaning of conflict? What is the meaning of a conflict? What's the meaning of a conflict? Any labs? Conflict. Another meaning for a conflict. Yeah. 5. So conflict. Okay. When we go to terminology, disputes, claims are a little bit different. Maybe the closest person who has given what you call something close to conflict is salad, where normally it's a disagreement. Okay, when we talk normally about conflict, it starts with a disagreement. So we have two individual or two team members inside my group. They were having an issue between them. They had disagreements. Is it important for me as a leader to be able to solve that issue, or it's not important? I'll leave it as it is. Okay. Once again, when we talk about conflict, we talk about it starts with disagreement between different parties. Okay, so both parties, they want something different. Is it important for me as a leader to solve it or just to keep it? Now, if you didn't solve it, you will end up losing both team members. They will not work for you. Okay. Now, a good example, let's say that I was a project leader in a college and I have two good speakers. Okay, I had two good speakers, a lady and a man. Okay, and we had a presentation to present. Okay, so each one of them is saying that I'm the better speaker. Okay, both of them, they wanted to present. Now, a conflict has happened due to the disagreement that they couldn't agree on a person to present. Now, let us see both situations and then we'll decide. Situation number one, the second project leader said, it's not my problem. You need to agree on one person. While the other one, he said, both of you will be presenting a certain part. Now, which one you think has solved the issue? Which one you think that the project is going to go smoother with? Is it number one or number two? Okay. You will see that number one has made both of them to be satisfied. He was not unfair to any of them. Okay, he tried to be, satisfying both members. He was not unfair. He was not unfair with both members. Right? While the second one, he just said, it's not my issue. You sort out your issue. Okay. Now, what will happen due to this conflict with team number two? You will see that till the last moment there will be an issue with the presentation, because everyone is fighting to present. While for number one, it has been sorted out from the beginning, and then when it comes to the presentation time, they will not have an issue. Are we okay? Are we okay with that?
Yes, Mr.
Okay. Now going for the challenges. There are certain difficulties or certain challenges will be appearing for the project manager. Certain challenges. Okay. Now first, you should know that project manager, the job of a project manager is considered to be the highest paid job in terms of engineering. The highest engineer who is getting paid is normally a project manager, and it's the topmost engineering job. Okay. Now, according to the statistics here in Oman, 25% of employees, when it comes to people who are working as project managers, they are getting around 1,170, 15%, 1,630, and it goes on. Okay, it keeps on increasing. So normally project managers are the person who are getting the most paid when we talk about engineering. Okay. And you will understand from this particular point that due to the high salary, they are having a lot of issues or a lot of challenges. Okay, and we'll try to discuss it. So we have mainly 4 challenges, and then we'll end up today's session. Okay. First is a temporary nature. Okay, the first temporary nature. Now, when we talk about the projects, are we going to have the same project after I finish this project? Am I going to have another same project, or is it going to be different? Are we going to do the same work daily, or is it different? It's going to be different. And when it's different, it always involves challenges, right? When we compare a person who is sitting in his office and he's doing a routine work daily, another person who is having a lot of challenges each and every day, of course, the person who is having the problem and the challenges is going to be suffering, right? Are we okay? So one of the big challenges one of the big difficulties when it comes to the project manager, that his duties are changing, his projects are changing. Okay. For example, my construction project number 1 was a 2-story villa. After that, I had to do a twin villa. After that, I have done a mall. After that, a mosque. So I cannot say my previous project was a 2-story villa. I cannot do a twin villa now. Are we clear? Are we clear with that point? You need to adapt with the new project. Is it clear? Okay. The same thing for your courses. From one course to another course, it's going to be different. From one project to another project, it's going to be different. So always the challenges, the difficulties you'll be facing are different from whatever you have faced previously. Okay. On power. Now, as a project manager, if you remember the tower example. We said we have 4 or 5 members, and then we had chosen one as a team leader. Now, who is having the power over there? Is it the team leader? Can he change, for example, the concept from doing a tower to doing a bridge? Is he having that power? Why not? Once again, you remember we were 4 or 5 persons, and then we created one team leader. Now, is he able to change anything? Can he say, no, I want 20 members instead of 4 to 5? Can he change whatever he wants? You have been given, for example, a twin villa. Can you go and change it to a villa, a regular villa? You are a project manager. You cannot do so, right? So when it comes to power, eventually you are limited on power. Okay, you are limited on power. I'm not doing this work for me. I'm doing it for somebody else. Are we fine? Okay. So just to keep it clearer, normally we have laborers. Above laborers, we have a foreman. Foreman is a person who is having experience normally, but he's not having a certificate normally. Labor, and then a foreman. After a foreman, we have an engineer. So the power of a laborer is very small. If you go a little bit higher, you will see that the foreman is having more power, more responsibilities, and then an engineer. After the engineer, we have a project manager. After the project manager, we have the owner. Okay. So eventually, I'm limited on power. I cannot control and do whatever I want. Are we fine? Are we fine with that? So limited on power. Are we clear with the limited on power? Are we fine with the limited on power? Okay. After that, we have different backgrounds. Now, when you have formed your group, is it necessary that you know all of them? Is it necessary that all of them are going to be from your specialization? Is it necessary that you have dealt with them previously? So you are dealing with different backgrounds, right? You are dealing with different backgrounds. You cannot say I'll not deal with this person because I didn't deal with him previously. Are we okay? Okay, so I'll give you an example and then hopefully it will be clearer. So let's say in my team, I had an architect, I had a labor, I had a civil engineer, I had a mechanical engineer, a mason who was doing the blocks, we call it the mason, and then we have an HSC engineer. Okay, we have an HSC engineer, and for example, I was a civil engineer. Okay, once again, as a project manager, I was a civil engineer. I had an architect, labor, civil engineer, mechanical engineer, mason, and HSC engineer. Eventually, who will decide when it comes to the final decision in this project? Okay, final technical, let's say technical decision. Who will decide? It's going to be, for example, in terms of architecture. We have asked for a small change in architectural drawings. So the architect is going to do the architectural drawing. Finally, who will approve it? In terms of technicality, before it goes to the owner, who will approve it? It will be approved only by the project manager, right? Okay, it will be approved by the project manager. Even if your specialization is civil engineering, you cannot say, I cannot decide because this is not my specialization. A project manager is a person who should know about the different disciplines as well. Okay, so one of the challenges, you need to deal with people that you didn't deal with them with previously. You need to deal with fields that you didn't deal with previously. And you might be dealing with nationalities or languages that you didn't deal with previously. So if you see, for example, different nationalities, and that will cause you to have a different background. So that will be a challenge for you. Okay? In each and every project, you are having new people. In each and every project, you are facing issues you need to decide at the end. Are we okay? Is it clear the point of different background? Okay. Last point is client satisfaction. Now, is it important to satisfy the client, the owner? Is it important to satisfy him? Now, if he was not satisfied, what will be happening? If he was not satisfied, what will be happening? Your whole work is not going to go to the garbage. Okay. Okay. He will ask you to repeat it. He will ask you to repeat that particular job. If the client was not satisfied, he will ask you to repeat it. Okay. But you will only repeat it. You will only repeat it. No, he will trust you. He will trust you. He will not throw your work to the garbage, of course. Okay. He will ask you only to change according to whatever has been agreed between you. Yeah. No, if the client was not satisfied, it does not mean that the project was failed. Okay. Once again, client satisfied means that he will not approve my project. He will not be ready to take the project from me. So it means that I need to change whatever he's asking me to change according to whatever we had a contract. Okay, and I'll give you an example. So for example, there was a crack. Okay. Now you can see even in new houses and new buildings, we have cracks. So you can see it's a very small crack. It's non-structural crack. Okay. For you as a contractor, you believe that this crack is fine. And we do have, even in new buildings, we have cracks. Now the client said, cracks in the wall, I need you to change the wall for me. And you told him, we call this particular crack, we call it as a hairline crack. Okay, we call it as a hairline crack. Okay, and it will be solved by only plastering. No need to change the wall. Okay. I want you to change it. Okay. Now in this scenario, what has happened? Client will not be satisfied. He's not ready. He's not going to be ready to take the project to be received from me unless I do whatever he wants. Are we fine? Client satisfaction is very hard. Very good example is you in your courses. Is it easy? Is it easy normally to get an A in courses? Is it easy to get A in certain courses? Not easy. Why? Because it's very hard to satisfy, or it's very hard to convince that particular lecturer that you deserve that particular A. Are we okay? So as a student in the course, you are being your project leader. Okay, you cannot change him. He brought you. You cannot change the owner. The owner can change you. You cannot change him. Okay. So when it comes to the owner, you need to be very careful. You need to listen to him. You need to be a good negotiator. If you are a good negotiator, you can convince him that this is not an issue. Okay. But if you don't know how to negotiate, then he will not be satisfied. If he is not satisfied, you need to repeat the work. Are we clear? Yes. You need to change for him. You need to change for him whatever he is asking you, provided that it is there in the contract. If in the contract it says 2 toilets are there and he is asking you to build another toilet, it does not mean that he is looking for a satisfaction. He is looking for an extra work that was not there in the contract. Satisfaction means that I have asked you to do a certain work and you are doing it exactly as whatever I have told you. If you have done it in that way, I'll be satisfied. If you are not, then I'll not be satisfied and I'll ask you to keep changing it till I'll be satisfied. Are we okay? Are we clear with that? Okay. By that we have finished today's. Session. If you have any doubt, you can post in the in the Teams or in the e-learning as well. The last 3 lectures, including this lecture, we have little bit went through a slow pace since I was a little bit slow. The coming lectures I'll try to little bit be faster. But if you didn't understand anything that I was saying, you keep interrupting and telling me that I didn't understand this point. Okay, thank you very much, and see you in the upcoming lectures.